This priory, dedicated to St. Thomas, was founded in 1229 by Philip de Barry for the Canons Regular of St. Augustine, priests who lived according to a monastic rule. The priory buildings were laid out in the 13th century around a central cloistered courtyard. On the north side was a long rectangular church, now ruined. The church's original west gable, with its two very fine lancet windows, was incorporated into the tall tower in the 14th or the 15th century, and a second tower, used for living accommodation, was built further to the west at the same time. Opposite the church was a refectory or a dining hall. The basin of the laver, where the brethren washed their hands, still survives. Very little is left today of the Church of the Augustinians priory here at Ballybeg. Before, it was occupied by a farmhouse and out offices, its west end being a cowhouse. Over these humble buildings towered the west gable, with its graceful lofty early English couplet. This couplet had large inward splays, and its lancets are divided internally by a very fine banded shaft, having a moulded base and a bold and richly carved cap of the peculiar foliage of the period. Into this part of the church, at some time subsequent to the original erection, was built the massive belfry. It rests on 4 piers, 2 of them in the western eternal angle of the church, upon which vaults are turned. It was possible to ascend to the top by a stairs constructed in one of the piers. The vaulting is ornamented with some grotesque heads, and there are circular holes in it, as if a peal of bells had been hung in the upper portion. At the east end of the church, fragments of the chancel wall alone remain. The east window, to which Smith refers in his History of Cork, long since had disappeared. Of the cloisters, only the enclosing wall remains, and it has portions of the corbels, which carry the beams of the lean-to roof over the arcade. Midway in the east wall of the cloister, the chapter doorway can be identified. The moulded base of its jambs is all that remains. The lavabo has been re-erected by the Board of Works at the left centre to the southern cloister, to where the refectory was situated. From the ground plan of its remains, it would appear that Ballybeg Priory was a more imposing structure than the neighbouring friary at Buttevant. Its church was somewhat larger, being 166 feet. There is no evidence of the existence of any transept in Ballybeg, though it would appear that there was a chapel or sacristy about 25 foot square, in the angle formed by the south wall of the nave and the eastern wall of the cloister. Ballybeg Cloister is 90 foot square, as compared with the 60 foot square cloister of Buttevant. There is a tower in Ballybeg which stands in somewhat the same relation to the cloister as does Coshlan Cuivine Tower to Buttevant Cloister. Mr. Crofton Croker in his research tells of the discovery, in the field in which the columbarium stands, of a sepulchre, the interior of which was lined with slabs, having figures of the apostles quaintly carved thereon, and containing a stone coffin. We are told that when St. Augustine was consecrated bishop, being obliged to live with his clergy in the city, he formed them into a regular community. Every member of this community was required to give what he processed to the poor, or to throw in the common stockhouse, out of which the provost, who was chosen yearly, distributed to everyone what was necessary. If anyone deserted this state after he had embraced it, he was punished as an apostate and guilty of breaking his vows. This is the origin of the regular Canons of St. Augustine, an order which was very widely scattered in medieval times and which now consists of only one house, which is associated with the Canons Regular of the Lateran. The first foundation of the order in Dublin was the Convent of All Hallows, Dublin, endowed by Dermot MacMurrough, Dermot of the Foreigners. The chapter of Christchurch, under the influence of Sir Lorcan O'Toole, also accepted this rule, and the number of order homes in the country became so considerable that the Canons Regular of St. Augustine occupied in the religious life of Ireland a place as important as that of the Benedictines in the UK. They had as many monasteries as had all the other religious orders taken together. All the cathedral chapters and all the collegiate churches were led by regular canons, and being a regular canon was almost a sine qua non of promotion to a bishopric. And so in 1229 Philip de Barry endowed the priory, and in remembrance of his endowment his equestrian statue in brass was erected in the church. Philip's grandson David enlarged the revenues of this priory, the same David who endowed the Franciscan priory in the neighbouring city of Buttevant. The priory complex also incorporated a substantial gatehouse, as well as a columbarium, the inside walls of which are built in square compartments in regular tiers to a height of 15 feet. There are some 352 niches, divided into 11 tiers, each containing 32 compartments. The tiers begin above ground level, so as to allow for the collection of droppings, and end well below the flight hole in the roof, since doves and pigeons will not perch near frequented exits. The columbarium here at Ballybeg is typically located away from the main priory buildings, and still conserves a string course around the circumference of the building, which served not only as a structural strengthening of the building, but also to prevent weasels, martens and other vermin from scaling the walls to the entrances. The columbarium's importance stemmed from having been a source of revenue for the priory, as its principal agricultural purpose was the production of fertilizer. Pigeon fertilizer was essential for herb gardens, and economically more highly valued than equivalents produced by sheep, cattle or pigs. Pigeons could themselves be regarded as vermin and capable of wreaking damage on grain crops. Columbaria were strictly controlled by medieval law. While tenants and others were permitted to keep a few pairs of doves in their roof attics, a dovecot, such as this one here at Ballybeg, was the exclusive prerogative of the landowner, who in turn was restricted to one nest per arpen, and medieval French measure of land of about 1.25 acres. From this we can infer that at the time of the construction of the dovecot here at Ballybeg, the priory owned something in the region of 440 acres of land. The word Ballybeg means a small town. The priory is in the parish of Buttevant, in the barony of Orrery and Kilmore, and is situated 200 yards from the Ballybeg River. The Abbey is located 2 kilometres from Buttevant on the Mallow to Limerick N20 roadway.